Whoever's here. Or Meyer's here, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we need to, all right. So first of all, welcome here. We want to thank everyone for coming to celebrate with us in our engagement. And I want to first, before we start, I want to give a special thank you to my sister and brother-in-law for hosting us here in this house, and my parents, my mother and father, for helping make this some beautiful time and welcoming everyone into the family. And just to mention that the reason why it's in this house, besides the fact that my sister offered, that's usually easy, right? But also, this house, my grandmother, my mother's parents lived here, and there was a lot of emotional bonding between my grandmother and our family in a very, very powerful, deep way. And obviously, the energy is still here, so we wanted obviously to continue that legacy and have the engagement l'chaim right here. So again, Kenny and Yossi, thank you so much for hosting us tonight. Thanks so much. I'd like to welcome Shani's parents, Dr. and Mrs. Raymond, and the Silver family, the Kapanim, and then everyone that flew in, and also the big extended Silver family that's here, the Raymond family, the Spark family, and the Greenberg, the Greenberg family, and then again all my brothers, sisters, my cousins, nephews, everyone that really came. And most importantly, I was really touched today on the plane. I mean, literally, last night the guys bought tickets. Literally, we had 10 people on the plane from Fort Myers today. Give them a round of applause. A week ago, David and Dallas in our shul every Shabbos. He goes, "Remember, I'm going to vacation." I said, "Where are you going to vacation?" He's going to the Bahamas. He's going to Brooklyn. He's going to vacation in Brooklyn. He said, "Oh, I have friends in Park Slope." I told him next week he's getting engaged. He literally had goosebumps coming out. He said, "Rabbi, I'll be there next week." He was like, "Oh, just today, him and his wife. Right, the wife is here somewhere. He came with his wife to the Ohel. They came to the Ohel, and then Esther, who's on a Jewish journey from Fort Myers to the sun. She's hanging around and getting to know Brooklyn and all the whole places here. She came here. She will come to the Ohel to teach you about modern technology. She has an electric car. She got to plug it in last night. That was good. Modern technology. Got to watch out for modern technology. That's a plug for the gas cars. But anyway, so we're happy that you're here with your son. And okay, so now we're going to do this follow. So the tradition is that by engagement, we got to commit to each other. We're going to get married, and we pick out two witnesses that are not related. So it's called there's so much family here. Like literally throwing like a needle in a haystack. We have your claim to fame is Vivian's husband. That's what I was told, right? What's your name?
Vinny Loverton.
Vinny Loverton. Vinny Loverton is going to be one of the witnesses, and then on behalf of the Shani side, then we're going to ask our neighbor that lives between me and the Chabad. So the Chabad passed by your house. Israel comes to every single opinion, and Israel is very involved in everything that goes on in the Chabad house. They're literally like, part of the furniture. Anything that goes on the Chabad. So Israel and Mendy, come on up right. You guys will be the witnesses. All right, and Yossi's officially the rabbi, but he's standing over there to give it like a little. My father wants you to come close to Yossi. Yossi, my father wants you to come close to him. All right, yeah, okay, fine. I'll help you. I'll do the long hand. All right, anyway, so the first thing is, obviously, they're going to give it to the chassan. This is basically called a garment that you do a pinion. Now, in order to be eligible, it has to be a complete garment. Because this is a gargle, so obviously it's considered a pinion. It has to actually belong, what? My father has to belong to me. So it obviously belongs to me. My father once gave it to me, but he gave it to me as a real present. That has to be a present. So I'm going to accept this, and with that, I am, you guys are making the video, I am committing to marry Shani. Now here's the big question. Shani is sitting here to marry me. I picked it up. All right, here. This is the symbol. Are you committing? Tell everyone, the camera. So share a mimer. So since we have a big contingent of Fort Myers, that oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, before, yeah. Everyone, pictures, videos. 1, 2, 3.
You probably want to put it against the Santa Claus.
Okay, so now that they broke the plates, official.
Here, hold it from the top.
Shani wants to make sure it's broken. Broken? There you go. Okay, so we're going to recite a civic discourse, but since we have people in Fort Myers, so instead of doing it in Hebrew that it's usually done, we'll do it in English. You guys don't mind? Here we go. Shani, you're doing it all right. All right, so we're going to do it in forms of English. We'll start. Ready? Okay, here we go. So the civic discourse is a civic discourse that the Rebbe said on Shabbos Parsha Midbar. This week is Shabbos Parsha Midbar. He said it was Erev Shavuos in the year Tafshin Mem Ches, which we know stands for Tishrach, to be happy. And interestingly enough, the name of the civic discourse is called Varastich Li Lo'ilam, which is from the Torah, which speaks about marrying Hashem forever. So the civic discourse is based on the verse where it says in the Torah, Varastich Li Lo'ilam, and it says the adopted Hashem. The Rebbe brings down, he said it's known from the Friedrich Rebbe about the behavior of the Tzemach Tzedek, that a year that Shabbos Parsha Midbar fell on the 5th day of Sivan, like that year, that before they lit the candles on Shabbat, so he said a civic discourse on the title of Suas Roish. And on Shabbos afternoon, he said the discourse based on this verse, and Rebbe says to point out that since this verse is at the end of the Torah, so obviously it covers everything in the Torah portion, especially as we know that the reason why they instituted the Sefer Torahs is because at one point it was forbidden to study Torah. So this goes instead of the Torah portion. The Rebbe says that the point that's explained in that civic discourse is that these verses, the Adat Hashem, is talking about the revolutionary idea of giving of the Torah. Because the fact is, giving of the Torah is the engagement of Hashem and the Jewish people. In other words, never explains, just like an engagement and a marriage, literally. So what happens when you get engaged? Now that's it. You're taken. You can't date anyone else. That's it. You're taken. And like it's also there, like it says in the Rambam, that what happens is that when someone gets engaged, so let's say an Israelite woman gets engaged to a priest. Once she gets engaged, before they're married, she can already start eating holy items that only a priest can eat. And there is also, in certain instincts, when someone that's engaged has more stringencies than when someone that's married. Now, that's general, but when you talk about the engagement of Matan Torah, there's 3 levels, like the verse says, and you're going to get married, and after these 3 levels, then you come to the level of to know Hashem, which is the highest level in giving the Torah, which we reach the level of what knowing Hashem. Now, there is, even though knowing Hashem, the fact is today it's not possible to know Hashem completely. We have so much darkness. When are we going to reach the level of knowing Hashem? That's when Mashiach comes. Then we're going to have the completion of knowing Hashem. And that's also connected to the idea of giving the Torah in the future. But on the other hand, we know that even though we're going to have the completion, but we received everything of Matan Torah. Because everything really, we got that as well. And that's why it says, our stick believe. Because anytime you find the word believe, to me, it's actually talking about something which lasts forever. And the engagement is something which lasts forever. And even what's going to happen in the future. Now, the Rebbe says, even though what happened with Matan Torah was a gift, Hashem gave us a Torah. But nevertheless, the concept that says, Hashem doesn't want us to have something which is called Nama de Ksufa. Nama de Ksufa means shameful bread. Something that you don't work for, something you don't put the effort into it. So since we need to put the effort, that's why there was a concealment after Matan Torah, and we have to do our part of our work so that everything, all the revelations from Matan Torah should come down in a revealed way. And the Rebbe says, how do we see that? So literally, it starts from Rosh Chodesh Sivan, when we get ready for Matan Torah, because Rosh Chodesh is basically, which is going to be this week, is the third one which is connected to the Torah, and afterwards in the 3 days of preparation, and then we have, on the said, the Jewish people said, Nasa Lishma, that was our preparation, we said we're going to accept, even though before we heard. When we do that, we actually draw down the 2 crowns that the angels put on every one of the Jewish people. And the truth is, these 2 crowns hadn't come from, even though we got it as a gift, it came actually through our work. And like it says in the Medrash, he gives an example of people in a country, they made 3 crowns for the king. And the king took one, he put it on his own head, and he put 2 on the people. But who made the crowns? The fact is the Jewish people made the crowns. Like we say in the prayers, that means the Bnei Yisrael also, they were part of making the crowns. And also because whenever when you send the discourse, we're at the end of Sfiras Eimer, and the whole idea of counting the Eimer is doing our avodah, transforming ourselves, like it says in the prophet, Mashcheni acharecha nerutza, that the Shani is a gift of Yitzias Mitzrayim. That's when we got a gift and went out. But acharecha nerutza, we run after Hashem, we do our part, and which is basically, the rutza says plural. It's referring to the godly soul and the animal soul. It's about transforming ourselves. And by doing our work, not just a gift, we do our work, that creates a real relationship that lasts forever. And obviously, we were able to nullify the greed because before Matan Torah, the heaven was heaven and earth was earth. By doing our avodah, we were able to unite the 2. Now, Rebbe says, just like when we received the Torah the first time, the same thing also happens every time somebody sits down to learn Torah. You take out a Chumash, you take out a Mishnah, you take out Talmud, you take out Kabbalah, anytime you take out Torah, you're accomplishing the same thing. Like it says, just like when we see the Torah, we see it with awe and trepidation, the same thing happens every time you learn Torah. And like it said, the verse says, every time when you say Torah, we're actually, Hashem is saying it with us. Or like it says, it's saying on its own. This idea of learning Torah that creates this, it applies to every single person, because the fact is we're all unified. We're like it says, we're all one. Not only Kish, like in comparison, but no, we're literally one. We come over Hashem, and it's not only like love, because the fact that Rebbe says, when it says that's it's connected to Matan Torah, because we know when Hashem put the mountain on top of the Jewish people, and He forced them, it wasn't a force, a fearful force. It was actually coming from a place of love. But the goal is to have real unity, and that we're totally connected to Hashem. It goes on to say, when you have the completion of our Stichli Loilam, you get married to Hashem forever. And all the 3 levels we mentioned before, we come to the highest level of Yadat Hashem, knowing Hashem, which is basically Das, a full comprehension, which creates the ultimate marriage. And that is, like what it says, what's real Das? We know it says the Torah, 2 Das, that creates the real wine. Up till when you have that connection, then you have the byproduct that comes from it. What's the byproduct of it? Love and awe for Hashem, and which includes all the mitzvahs, the positive commandments and negative commandments, which is also connected to the 10 commandments. And like it's explained in Tanya, the first 2 commandments in the 10 commandments, we heard it from Hashem, and that includes all the positive and all the negative commandments. And Rebbe says, by doing our work, by learning Torah and drawing down all this great energy, and especially, Rebbe says, that we're doing it in the afternoon, in the time Mincha. We actually, it's interesting, we just have Mincha, and Rebbe says that Mincha is connected to who? Which one of the Avot? Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Mincha is connected to who? Yitzchak. By the way, my name is Yitzchak, and Yaakov, right? So the Rebbe says it's connected to Yitzchak, and the Rebbe says Yitzchak is connected to the future. Because it says, reference to Yitzchak, it says, in the future they're going to say about Yitzchak, you are our father, even though Yaakov, again, it's also me, right? It's all in here, is considered the so to speak, the most prestigious of the patriarchs, but the reference to the future is what? It's connected to the idea of Yitzchak. I never finished what he said, especially he said took this on Shabbat. You know, Shabbat is all about einik, real pleasure, and everything gets done, you don't have to do anything, especially in a time that at the end of Shabbat, Rebbe said, it's called Rivin, the highest part of Shabbat. We come to the very, very soon, the coming of Mashiach, and we're all going to return to Eretz Yisrael and it's going to happen very, very soon and very, very quickly. So in other words, I think just to walk away, because we always try to walk away something practical, but the other saying is like this, that obviously, on one hand, Hashem gives us all the gifts, and at the engagement, already everything is locked in for the future. But then, and it's going to be great and amazing, and we're going to have a great connection, but you still got to do the work. And by doing the work, then you have the sweat equity, and that brings, obviously, the greatest blessings. So let's hope and pray that we should have a great life and all the great blessings. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Thank you.